Hey guys, welcome to Restorative Moves. This is your monthly free class on YouTube, so I hope that you enjoy it. This month we are going to build a little bit on what we started talking about last month. So in last month's Restorative Moves class, we were working a bit on the bottom of the rib cage. We're going to keep working on that today. We're going to connect it down into the hips a little bit, and we're just going to get a little bit of postural work to help us support some of this mobility that we're trying to create in our body today. So I hope you enjoy it. As I said, this is a free class. If you would like to donate to help support the creation of these classes, check out the link to the Patreon in the description below. And if you would like some tunes to go along with your class, there's a link to a Spotify music playlist that I enjoy doing with my restorative moves. So I hope you guys enjoy this, and let's get started. We don't need too much for props today. I would make sure that you have a set of blocks or something block-like nearby. You may want a blanket to sit up on to create a little bit of space in your back, or for some padding for your knees. So go ahead and grab your props, and when you're ready, come back and hit play. All right, so now that we're ready to go, if you have a tight lower back or tight hamstrings, this can be a really nice place for a blanket. So if that's your situation, I would take the blanket, fold it up so that it's nice and soft and a bit tall, and then you'll just sit up on the blanket, and that should create a little bit more space for your hips and your low back. If you don't need the blanket, feel free to just sit on the floor, and if you just want the blanket, do that too. And as you're ready, start to arrive in your space. Start to allow your eyes to close. Start to notice any activity in your mind. And recognize that it's normal for your mind to be active. That's what minds do, they think. So rather than trying to make the mind stop thinking, see if you can allow the thoughts to flow through. Imagining that each thought is like a leaf in the wind. It comes across. It rolls through the yard. Then it keeps going over to the neighbor's yard. Let your mind be like that wind. Gentle breeze, allowing the thoughts to roll across your mind and down and away. Then starting to bring some direction to the mind. Noticing what you feel in your body as you sit here. Maybe noticing if there's tension in the neck, in the back, in the shoulders. And with an exhale, see if you can just allow some of that tension to go. Maybe focusing less on trying to sit rigidly and more on trying to sit softly. Now, sitting softly doesn't necessarily mean slouching. All it means is that we're trying to take out some of the rigid bracing of the muscles and seeing if we can find a place where we just float the center of our bones on top of the center of the bones below them. Noticing what it feels like to try to do this in your body. Not judging, just becoming aware of it. On your next inhale, we're going to reach both arms up to the sky. Keep the arms reaching up. Think about the middle fingers pressing up towards your ceiling. And turn your palms so that your thumbs point towards the wall behind you. See if you can start to gently squeeze the arms. Lengthening out through the hands and feeling the muscles squeeze in towards the bones of the arms. Feeling the back of the neck be long. Try to bring the chin slightly in towards the throat, pressing the back of the head very gently backwards. Feeling a little bit of fatigue through the tops of the shoulders and the upper back here. And then see if you can relax your lower ribs down a bit. Feeling that you're pulling the ribs in opposite directions now. Bring the hands together and lower them down to heart center. Taking one more moment here with your eyes closed. And then as you're ready, allow your hands to come to your knees and allow your eyes to start to open slowly. Now let's start to bring a little bit of movement into the body. Bringing both hands onto your knees, and you can do this still up on your bolster or down on the floor, whatever is comfortable in your body. Hands rest on the knees, palms face down. Start to press your hands into your knees, pushing your hands downward. Feel your belly button start to pull back and start to think about cat stretch. Pulling your lower ribs towards the wall behind you as you're pressing the hands into the knees. Feeling a little bit of ab work here. And then start to lift the heart, rolling the spine forward, thinking about cow pose in the seated place. And as you come up into cow pose, rather than lifting the hands off the knees, can you keep pressing your hands actively downward into the knees and feel that start to lift the heart a bit? Exhaling, pressing the hands into the knees as we pull the belly button in and back into our round. Inhaling, still pressing the hands down into the knees as we lift the heart up, coming into our cow pose. 2 more times. Exhaling, belly button pulls back, finding the round in the spine. Inhaling, rolling the spine up. And feeling how that pressing of the hands down into the knees really creates a little bit more effort in the body. We're creating our own internal resistance, which is what's giving us that effort, but it's also helping us build strength in the muscles that control this mobility. And then release your spine to neutral. Just sitting for a moment, see if you feel like you have a little bit more space in your body right now, a little bit more strength, a little bit more lightness to the upper body. Let's take both arms, reach them out to the sides and up to the sky. And we're going to find some openness through the side body. Let the left arm drop towards the floor and start to lean over to the left. And as you lean to the left, really think about those ribs moving with you to the left. The more you take the ribs with you, the more you'll feel this sort of through the side body on the lower part of the back. The less you take your ribs with you, the more you sort of force a rainbow at the top of the ribs, the more you're going to feel something here, but this isn't super great for your back necessarily. So really try to take the ribs with you to the left. Let's take one more moment here. And then bring yourself all the way back up, both arms to the sky. We'll go the other way, right hand to the floor, lengthening over to the right side. Again, taking the ribs with you, feeling that openness through the left side of the body. And then on your inhale, bring it back upright. Both hands to the floor. If you're sitting up on something, go ahead and move that out from under you and off to the side. We're going to do a little rotation. So I'm going to sit with my left leg on the floor in front of me. So in my situation, my left leg is parallel to this long edge of my mat here. And then I'm going to take my right leg and I'm going to cross it to the outside of my left. So my right foot is sitting to the outside of my left knee. And my right knee is definitely pointed upward. So this is going to start to be a stretch to that outer right hip already. If this doesn't feel good in your body, if this is too much, I want to give you an option. Take your left leg straight and just cross your right leg over. This is less torque through your hips, so this might feel a little bit better if the leg bent is too much. Either way, either left leg bent or left leg straight, the right foot should be on the outside of that left knee. Sitting up tall for a moment first, thinking about your right knee being right in front of your sternum if you can. And then I'm going to start to spin at the base of my ribs as though I'm twisting where my ribs pull in, and bring my right hand out to my right side. A nice way to think about this twist and getting your abs to support you through it is to think about putting on a seatbelt. So if I'm in the driver's seat and I'm going to reach back and grab my seatbelt and I'm going to turn down to plug it in on this right side over here, it's that same feeling through my ribs of coming in and down a little bit as I twist. And that's going to help the twist come from my core and my spine. But it does tend to pull the head and the heart down a little bit. So let's see if we can find some balance to this. I want to try to keep my ribs where they are, my lower ribs where they are. And I'm going to see if I can find just a little bit of cow pose through my heart and head. So I'm just lifting up a little bit. I'm resisting from the bottom of the ribs and I'm pulling from the top of the chest. And that makes this a very active twist. I promise not all of our class is going to be this much work. And then release yourself back to center. Okay. Untwist your legs. We'll go the other way. So my right leg is now going to be in front of me, ideally parallel to my mat. My left foot's going to come to the outside of my right leg, and you can always kick that right leg out straight if that's going to be better for your body. And you can also pull the right foot a little bit more towards the hip if that feels more comfortable on your knee. So again, I'm going to start sitting up tall on both my hips, my knee and my heart reaching towards each other. And then to start to find the twist, I'm going to think about that seatbelt feeling. So now I'm in the passenger seat. I'm going to grab that seatbelt and I'm going to tuck it into its latch. And that feeling of drawing the ribs in, down, and over as I plug the seatbelt in, I'm going to keep that through the lower part of my rib cage. And then I'm going to start to think about lifting the upper part of my rib cage. So the bottom part stays there, and then I'm thinking cow pose through my heart and head, right? But not through my lower back. So why am I making you do so much work in a restorative moves class? Because we want to have the strength to support the mobility that we're trying to build in our bodies, right? If we're just mobile and we don't have any strength, then we're just little spaghetti noodles, and that's not going to work out so well for us in the long run. We want to be able to control our noodle-like bodies So we need a little bit of support to do that. And release yourself back to center. Let's take the bottoms of the feet together. Sitting up tall, taking the hands to the ankles. And I don't have my feet too tight in towards me. It's a bit of an open position here. Start to fold at the front of your hips and just lean your heart forward. So noticing how much the spine would really like to round as we do this. There's a tendency as I come forward from my lower back to want to sort of fall into it here. And we'll get to some place where we feel like we're really getting to be passive, but for the moment, we're still going to keep it a bit active. So I'm trying to fold at the front of my hips. I'm trying to keep my ribs connected inward a little bit, and I'm still trying to find that cow pose through my heart. And as we're here, let's think about the neck a little bit. So with this one, it's really easy to let the chin start to drop forward. So think about the bottom of your chin drawing back and in towards your throat, and feel how that creates a little bit of length at the back of the neck. Just staying here for another moment. You might be feeling that you're doing some work in your upper back, and that's absolutely appropriate here. And then let yourself start to round down, keeping that sense of forward that we just had as we start to come towards the floor. So now props can be really useful here. So if you can't go very far, you can take a block and put it on your feet. And maybe that's a nice thing to rest your head on. Depending upon where your feet are, maybe you put your block inside your feet and rest here on the high setting. Just find something that feels appropriate in your body. Listen to your body. Obviously, if it hurts, respect that. Back out of it. Just taking 2 more breaths here. And then slowly start to roll your spine back upright. Good. So we're going to do a little bit more work before we start to really chill out. Let's come down lying on our stomachs on the mat. All right, so coming into lying on our stomachs, let's bring the elbows under the shoulders, just coming into a passive Sphinx pose here. Now we've already done a fair amount of work to warm up our upper backs. We've already got a little bit of support there, thinking about that cow pose feeling. Reach your toes back. Start to press the hands into the floor a bit. Remember what it felt like when we were warming up and we were pressing our hands into our knees and lifting the heart. It's the same thing here. I'm going to press my hands and forearms into the floor and start to stretch my heart forward. Now this is another place where it can get really easy to overcompensate in the neck. So I'm going to think about drawing my chin in towards my throat. That's going to bring my eye line downward, but it's also going to really help me lengthen out my neck and make sure that I'm doing this lift through my upper back where I have strong muscles to support me. Now, keeping this feeling of pressing into the arms, start to lift your belly and round your lower back a little bit, feeling like you're doing a cat stretch just through the lower back. And then lower the hips down. Couple more times. Exhale, belly button lifts. Gently support the lower back upwards. Maybe you feel your glutes activate a little bit as you stretch the legs back. And then lower it down. 2 more times, finding a little bit of breath with this maybe. Exhaling as you lift. And inhaling as you reach your heart forward. And 1 more. Exhaling as you lift. And inhaling as you reach your heart forward. And then start to release the upper body down to the floor. Stack the hands and let your forehead rest on the back of your hands. And then press the hands into the floor, tuck the toes. Take the toes together and the knees wide, and we're going to drop it back into child's pose. Allow your heart and head to rest towards the floor. Arms can reach forward towards the ends of your mat. If it feels appropriate for you, you can always take reverse prayer. So if you're not sure what that is, my palms of my hands come together. My head's going to stay on the floor, and then my fingertips point down my spine. So I'm going to walk my elbows in a little bit because that makes it easier for me. Head comes down, and then my fingers point down towards my tailbone. And if that's not right for you, just keep your arms out. If you have any discomfort in your shoulders, know that you can always do this with your arms reaching back towards your feet. That's a different way to do this pose that's a little bit less load in the shoulders, but sometimes it can be a little bit more load in your neck. So just listen to your body and what it's willing to do today. Now, bring your hands under your shoulders. Bring your knees all the way together. We're going to keep the toes pointed backwards and then lower the hips towards your heels. As you lower your hips, you'll notice your heels tend to want to splay out to the sides a bit. See if you can keep your heels pressing in towards each other a little bit. So I'm pushing my heels together, pushing my ankles towards each other. And now I'm going to start to roll back and try to sit up. The more upright I sit, the more stretch I'm going to get on the tops of my feet. So go as far as feels good. So if you're here and this is a stretch on the top of your feet, then stay here. You absolutely don't have to come up to sitting. The whole point is just stopping where you feel that stretch on the tops of the feet. And then walk your upper body forward again. Come down to the elbows, but keep the knees together. So I'm going to take my hands, I'm going to turn my palms down to the floor like I did in Sphinx pose before. My elbows are under my shoulders. Take a breath. As you exhale, start to lift your belly button and round your belly away from your thighs. It's cat stretch again, right? So it's cat stretch, rounding my back up, allowing the shoulders to open wide and the head to go towards the floor. And then lengthen out. Reaching the heart forward, lifting the chest up a bit. We're going to do that one more time. Exhale, lift the belly button, round the back, let the head hang. The shoulders get a little opening and stretch. And then lengthen your heart forward. Take both hands, walk them back towards your knees again. This time, tuck your toes under. So the bottom of my toes are reaching towards my knees. My heels are reaching back. So I'm really opening up the bottoms of my feet. Now again, my heels tend to want to pull apart. I'm going to think about pulling my heels slightly together as I lower my hips back. And then stop at any point. We're working towards being upright, but if you're here and you get a good stretch in your feet and ankles, that's fine. If you feel like you can come all the way up, that's good too. And if you need something in between, blocks can be great. You can put those under your hands. Wherever you are, we're just going to take about 30 seconds here to start opening up the bottoms of the feet. And then as you're ready, start to come out of that, bringing both hands to the floor, taking the knees out hip distance apart, so I'm on hands and knees. Breath in. As you exhale, lift your belly round your back. And as you inhale, lengthen out through your tailbone, reach your heart forward. Lots of cat and cow today, lots of working on moving through the spine. Starting to see if we can find a wave-like feeling in the spine as we ripple through it. Feeling the movement can roll through the body from one end to the other. And then coming to neutral, holding here. Let's take the left foot, step it back, toes to the floor. Start to think about a little cat stretch, lifting your belly button, pressing the hands to the floor. And then lift your left hip higher than your right. My right knee is going to spin underneath me here. So instead of pointing towards the short end of my mat, I'm going to turn it so it points towards the long end of my mat behind me. And then I'm going to roll my left heel down and reach my left arm up towards the sky. Starting to find an opening through the side body here. And see if you can feel that you're opening up your hands in all directions. Your fingers and thumbs reach away from each other. Pressing that right hand into the floor. It makes me think about a little octopus suction cup pushing downward. And I'm feeling that push lengthen up and out through my left arm, expanding across the chest, but also across the back. And then roll the upper body down, left hand and left knee to the floor. And then we'll do our other side. The right foot's going to step backwards. Find a little bit of a cat stretch, so I'm lifting my belly. And then I'm going to lift my right hip higher than my left, which starts me rotating. At some point, my left knee has to spin, so my left toes point behind me. And then my right arm can start to reach up. And as the right arm reaches up, I'm going to start to think about my arms in general. So my left hand, I'm thinking about spreading it, pushing it into the floor, through all my fingers, thinking about that little octopus leg, octopus suction cup pressing into the earth. And feeling that the more I press down into the earth, the more I lift up away from it. The more my chest starts to open. And feeling that energy from the floor radiate up and out my right fingers towards the sky. And then start to bring the right side down, both hands and knees on the floor. We're going to go back and forth a couple times now. I'll step my left toes back. I'm going to spin on my right, I'm thinking about cat stretch. I'm lifting my belly as I lift my left hip, and that's going to help me stabilize my back. Left arm reaches up. Maybe this time you start to reach the left arm overhead if you want a deeper stretch. And then bring both sides back down to the floor. Step the right foot back. Start to find cat stretch. Spin the left knee underneath you. Reach the right arm up towards the sky. Again, maybe reaching the arm overhead. And then bringing it back down to the earth. One more time each side. Right foot steps back. Left foot steps back. Right knee spins underneath you as the left side lifts. Finding that energy through the right hand. Maybe reaching overhead. Maybe as you push down this time, you try to lift your waist up a little bit on this last one. And then bring it back down. Last time on the other side, right foot steps back. Cat stretch, hip lift, spin the left knee, right arm comes up. Lengthening through both my arms, reaching the arm overhead. Maybe you're really trying to lift that waist this time. And bring it back down, hands and knees to the floor. Tuck your toes, lift your hips up and back, find your downward dog just for one moment here. Press the shoulders wide, and then walk your hands back towards your feet, allowing yourself to come into a forward fold. Now those knees can be absolutely as bent as you need them to be. You don't need to have your legs straight here to get a benefit from this. Let your upper body hang, let your head hang. Maybe try making some small, gentle movements with the head. And then as you're ready, slowly rolling the spine up to standing. All right, go ahead and grab 2 blocks, or block-like some things. Place those towards the top of your mat. And you're going to stand a little bit behind your blocks. So I've got maybe, 8-10 inches between my toes and the blocks here. On your inhale, nod your chin and start to roll your spine down. Bring your hands to the blocks and let your head hang again. On your inhale, lengthen your tailbone back, reach your heart forward. As you exhale, start to bend the elbows and release the upper body down again. Walk your hands and your blocks back to either side of your toes, and then take your right foot and step it towards the back of your mat. So you're coming into a supported high lunge here. My right toes are on the ground, both of my hands are on the block. And then from here, I'm going to start to think about lengthening my heart forward a bit, bending into the left knee, allowing the hips to come down, opening up the front of the right hip as I reach my shoulders wide. So again, I'm finding that sense of pressing my hands into the blocks in order to reach the heart forward. And then I'm going to press into my left foot to send my hips up and back. I'm going to let my spine round a little bit into a cat stretch feeling here. I'm still actively pushing my hands into the blocks. Let's do that 2 more times. Bend the left knee, bring the heart up and forward. And then exhaling, pressing through the left leg, pulling the belly in, pressing the hips up and back. One more time, bending the left knee, bringing the chest up and forward. And exhaling, pressing that left leg back. Now, lengthen the spine, step the right foot forward a little bit. So my stance is a bit shorter now. So I'm going to try to bring my right heel down by allowing my right toes to open out to the side a little bit. And then as I do that, the right hip is going to want to try to lift up and spin. So I'm going to actively try to bring my right hip down and forward a bit, pressing through all parts of my left toes and my right foot, and then starting to reach my heart forward a bit. Still think about keeping that chin drawn in towards your throat so you're keeping some length in the back of the neck. Make sure that your left block is right up against your left foot now. And then you're going to spin your right hip up actively and allow that to rotate you into your triangle pose here. Reaching the right arm up. Now the difference between what we did kneeling and what we're doing now in this triangle is that I'm not trying to bend my side. I'm not trying to arch. I'm thinking about folding at this left hip, trying to pull my left hip backwards and keep my spine long here. Taking one more breath. And then bring your upper body back square to the floor. Spin that right foot a little bit to something that feels more comfortable. And then we're going to step forward. Both feet together. Take the blocks forward. Lengthen the heart out. Drop and round the head down towards the legs again. And then let's inhale, roll up to standing just for a moment in between. And let's do our second side. Nod the chin, roll the spine down again. Hands to the blocks. Inhale, lengthen the heart out. Exhale, drop it down. Walk the blocks back to either side of your feet. And this time we'll step the left foot back. Toes up. And I'm in my high lunge here because my left hip is lifted. Both hands are on blocks, and that's going to help support me here. So I want to press my hands into the blocks as I lower my hips forward and lift my chest up. Feeling that little bit of cow pose through the heart. And then press with the right leg, lift the hips up and back, round the spine. Little cat stretch here. Inhale, bend the right knee. Bring the hips forward, lift the chest up. Keep pressing those hands actively into your blocks. Exhale, press with the right leg, pull the hips up and back, little cat stretch. One more time, bend the right knee. Bring it forward, shoulders wide, hips lifted. Exhaling, cat stretch, pressing the right foot into the floor, lifting the hips up and back as you round. Then lengthen the spine towards neutral. Take your left foot, step it forward a good chunk, so it's a shorter stance. Allow your left toes to roll out to the left side a little bit so that left heel can come downwards. Start to think about what's happening at that left hip, right? Notice that it wants to lift up already. Try to bring the left hip forward. Anchor through your left foot and your right foot. And then see if you can press the heart forward, pulling the right hip backwards. Keep thinking about drawing your chin in towards your throat. Then make sure you've got that right block up against your right foot. Start to let your left hip lift. Feel that start to rotate you up, and then the left toes are going to naturally rotate out as we do that. And then allow your left arm to lift up towards the sky, coming into your supported triangle pose here. So again, the difference here between this and what we did earlier is we're trying not to round the side body. I'm thinking instead about folding my right hip and trying to keep my lower side body and my upper side body long here. Making sure that that front knee isn't locked. We're not just resting on the back of it. There's a little bit of softness there. Heart is opening. And your head in triangle pose for now can really be wherever it's comfortable. So if looking up to the sky is not in your practice, then you can look down towards the floor. Finding that same sense of energy, pushing from your block up through your fingers. And then roll your upper body forward. And step the left foot forward. Take both blocks out in front of you. Lengthen out through your heart for a moment. And then drop it around the upper body down, head towards the feet. Bend in the knees, roll the spine all the way up to standing. If you'd like to circle your arms, you can. Otherwise, just let the arms rest. On your next breath, nod your chin, roll your spine back down towards the floor. Hands to blocks and then to the floor. Bend the knees as deeply as you need to get your hands to the floor. And then we're going to come back down to kneeling, coming one knee at a time all the way onto the floor. Go ahead and move your blocks off to the side of your mat. And bring yourself down to sitting on your bum. And scoot your hips forward a bit. You're going to lay all the way back on your mat. We're going to do a little bit of some opening up through the chest and shoulders here. So I'm going to bend my knees, feet flat on the floor. My legs are about hip distance apart. Bring the arms out into a cactus shape on the earth. Starting to notice as you rest your arms back, the parts of the arms and hands that contact the floor. So for a lot of us who spend time on computers and phones and driving and looking down and all those things, when we first lay down here, we might feel that the shoulders rolled forward or that the wrists are sort of popped upwards. Start to see if you can lengthen your fingertips back, reaching towards the wall, pointing above your head. And think about trying to press the back of your wrist down into the floor at the same time. It's going to feel odd. And notice how that starts to change things. Maybe as you push your wrist down, you feel your elbows lift. See if you can find that sense of opening up through your elbows. And if you need to readjust here and there, go ahead and do that. And as you start to bring your arms back and open, check in with the back of your neck. See if you're starting to roll up to the top of your head. Can you draw your chin back down towards your throat, lengthening out the back of your neck a little bit? And this starts to feel a little bit like whack-a-mole. Now that we have the arms and the head in a better place, the ribs start to want to lift, right? So can we keep the arms and head here and start to soften the bottom of the ribs towards the floor a bit? And so now what we're looking for is this point of balance, where we're trying to open the front of the body, the front of the chest, but we're also noticing all the different ways we could force one place to open by closing off somewhere else. And we're trying to find this balance of opening through the neck, through the shoulders, through the arms, and through the ribs and lower back all at the same time here. Now take both arms, reach them up towards the sky. Lift your fingertips up and feel your shoulder blades pull off the floor, and then lower your shoulder blades back to the earth. Do that a couple times, lifting the shoulder blades up and lowering them back down and up and lowering them down. Then trying to keep the shoulder blades heavy on the earth. I'm going to cross my arms so that my right arm is over my left arm. So my right arm is closer to my nose, my left arm is closer to my knees. I'm going to cross at the elbows, and I'm still trying to keep my shoulder blades heavy on the floor. And then I'm going to bend my elbows and allow my hands to rest back on my shoulders. And it just feels like giving yourself a gentle hug. You might also feel a little bit of stretching or opening around the back of the shoulder blades, the top of the shoulders. And bring the arms back up. Open them so the hands are shoulder distance apart. And we'll go the other way. So I'm going to cross my arms now so that my left arm is closer to my face, my right arm is closer to my knees. I want to cross to the elbows, still keeping my shoulders heavy to the floor, and then bend the elbows and allow the hands to rest towards the shoulders. Taking a couple of breaths as you focus on the shoulder blades relaxing into the earth. And then reach the arms back up towards the sky. And let the arms come down, resting by your sides. Notice if the shoulders feel a little bit more relaxed. Let's take this into the lower body now. So I'm going to cross my left ankle over my right knee. Starting to feel that open up through that left hip a little bit. And I'm just going to turn my left knee towards my chest and then turn it back down. And what I'm trying to feel here is the spinning of my left thigh at the hip joint right here, right? So my pelvis is staying still and my thigh is spinning. My right ankle is still resting on my knee. And I'm going to stop where my left knee feels the most dropped, where my thigh is spinning outward. And then start to lift your right leg if you can, if this feels appropriate. You'll lift your right knee towards your chest, and that will deepen the stretch on the back of the left hip. It can be good here to take your hands and wrap them around the back of your right leg for a bit of support. But as you're doing that, try to make sure that your shoulders and neck are staying relaxed. So we don't want to be wrapping the hands around the knees at the expense of trying to arch the neck or strain the shoulders. And you can always still be here with your right foot on the floor. You don't have to lift your right foot up at all. And allowing the right foot to come to the floor. Bring the arms back by the sides. Set the left foot down. Right ankle over the left knee. And start to spin that right thigh now, up and down, keeping that right ankle resting on the left knee, and feeling the movement of the right thigh inside the hip joint at the pelvis. And coming to rest where that right knee feels sort of dropped towards the floor, the right thigh feels a bit spun outward. And then as you're ready, you can either stay here or start to lift the left foot, using the left leg to press the right foot in. And again, if it doesn't strain your neck or shoulders, you can take the hands and wrap them around the back of the left thigh to find some support from the upper body. Feeling that opening up through the back of the right hip. And then bring both feet back to the earth, hands by the sides. Take a breath here, and then let the legs go out flat on the floor. Moving through the back a little bit, wiggling it out wherever you need to. start to walk your legs towards the right side of your mat. So I'm not going beyond the edge of my mat, but I may be bringing my right ankle to the bottom right corner of my mat. And then you can cross the left ankle over the right ankle as long as that's not too uncomfortable. If it is too much, just leave your feet side by side off to the right side. But if it feels okay, you can cross that left ankle over the right, and that's going to give you a deeper stretch all the way up through that left hip and waist here. And just start feeling the bottom of the body being pulled over to the right. Feeling that stretch through the legs and noticing if you tense your back at all here. It's pretty common for the lower back to start trying to hold on to us as we go into bigger ranges of motion. So start to see if you can relax your back, if you can soften the muscles above your hips, along either side of your spine. And feel as you soften that it both opens you up to the stretch, deepens the stretch, and kind of makes it more comfortable all at once, right? So when we can identify those areas where we resist and tense, alleviating that before we go further can be really helpful sometimes. If you would like to take this deeper for the last 45 seconds or so that we're here, you can reach the arms overhead, and you can even take the upper body over to the right side of the mat and gently rest the left wrist on top of the right hand. And now you'll feel that stretch is more than just at the left hip and leg. It comes all the way up through the waist, through the shoulders. But again, wherever you are, what can you let go of on the right side? Notice if you're trying to pull yourself deeper, and see if you can get any of that to just dissipate. Bring yourself back to center. Allow your arms and legs to rest long. Maybe take a moment to notice the difference in your left and right sides. And then we'll do the other side. So I'm going to walk my legs over towards the bottom left side of my mat. And again, you can just rest the right leg alongside it. You can make it deeper by crossing the right ankle over the left ankle. And don't make this first part need to be the biggest stretch. Let it be gentle. Let your body ease into this. Feeling that start to open up through the right side, and notice if there's any tension in the left side of the body you can let go of. If there's any tension in the lower back or hips. And seeing if you can just allow your body to relax into this. Allow the floor to support you. If you'd like to take this deeper, you can reach the arms overhead. Take the upper body over to the left side of the mat and rest the left wrist on top of the right hand. The right wrist on top of the left hand. Again, notice any tension in the left side body. See if you can let that dissolve. Just one more breath. Bring yourself all the way back to center. Allowing the arms and legs to rest on the floor for a moment. And just allowing the spine, the muscles, the legs, everything to just let go. Feel as though you are melting into the earth. Feeling the weight of your body pulling you downward. And then as you're ready, slowly start to move the fingers and toes. Finding small movements in the body. Maybe taking a couple of deep breaths or stretching the arms overhead. Thinking about that morning stretch you do when you get out of bed. Taking your time. We're going to meet in a seated position, but feel free to do whatever you need to do on the way there. Maybe roll to your side for a moment. You have about 5 breaths to get there, so whatever you want to do for those breaths. Maybe seeing if you can keep your eyes closed throughout the transition. And as you arrive in your comfortable seat, starting to notice how the body has changed. The heaviness, but also the floatiness, that balance. The sense of being grounded, but at the same time being tall. On your inhale, circle the arms up to the sky. Notice the freedom in the arms. Bring the hands down to heart center. Thank you so much for joining me on this part of the journey. Namaste. I hope you guys really enjoyed your class today. I hope you go on to have a blissful rest of your day or evening, whatever part of the day you did this during. And thank you so much for taking this class. And remember, you can always do the same class more than once. You'll get different things out of it each time. I say so many words in every class, and there's really so much going on there that you could take the same class a dozen times and still keep finding new layers to it. So feel free to use this content over and over, and I'll see you next time. Bye.